It's your boy Crypto Blood, guys, and welcome to another Kicking It session. And today I have 3CLIPZ3. I gotta ask him where he got that name from, but I've got 3CLIPZ3 here with me today. He's from the Webbot chat room, and he's been pretty active in there. And we had a conversation regarding the direction of Bitcoin in particular, and he had some unique analysis. We didn't necessarily agree on why he derived his answer, but I definitely thought it was intriguing enough to definitely have him on and talk about this. So, 3CLIPZ, what's going on, brother?
Hey CB, thanks for taking the time
Absolutely.
to make this video. And yeah, I'm just here to share just a few ideas that I felt that I wasn't seeing. I
Right.
spend, it's actually kind of weird listening to you at normal speed. I'm normally listening to you at like 200%. So
I know. You're not the first one to
yeah,
say that.
there's so much content in crypto. In
Yeah.
order for me to just keep up with it, I have to watch YouTube at 200%. So,
Yeah.
but
That's efficient.
anyways, where I got my name, um, I've been trading for about close to 15 years now,
I could
and
tell.
I come from the forex world. And I actually
Same
got a
here.
screen here.
Okay, hold on. Let me
I'm actually you can actually look me up. I was on traderinterviews.com.
okay.
I was a very young trader, and I got success pretty early,
hmm
and I managed to my trading strategy is very, very different. I knew nothing really about volume spread analysis. Didn't really use Fibonacci back then. My strategy was totally different, but
Okay.
my ideal my strategy and my style of trading, I have to say, it hasn't really changed much. I've been very much into um, looking at how manipulation affects the markets, and actually, my strategy has always been to play into that manipulation. You can read, like, this is over 10 years old,
hmm
so you can actually look me up here. My name, 3CLIPZ, that's just my trader name in the forex world, and it's just transferred it over into crypto when I got involved back in 2017 when Bitcoin was around 3,000 bucks. That's
Okay.
when I got involved.
Okay.
After I did my homework, after looking at Cliff High, it really kind of opened up my mind to this. And he had that video, pissing in the woo woo pond, right?
hmm hmm
I watched that, and he opened my eyes to this world. And the more I looked, the more I saw I had to get involved. And I brought over my knowledge that I had in forex trading into crypto. And one thing that I noticed that does make me very different from other traders is I use something called volume spread analysis. Um, there's a lot of people that have not even heard of that stuff.
hmm
Um, it's it's by a guy named Tom Williams. I don't know. Have you ever heard of him?
I've never heard of Tom Williams. No.
Okay, so Tom Williams, he developed volume spread analysis. Before that, it was actually called Wyckoff theory. You've heard of Wyckoff, right?
Yeah, I've heard of
I think he
Wyckoff.
did. Yeah, he did make it to. Actually, I saw a lot of the headlines. Um, back, I think a few months ago, I actually saw it in the headline. People were talking about Wyckoff patterns. I was quite impressed because up until now, like, I haven't heard anybody even talk about that. But actually, that stuff, the traders that taught me and mentored me, they're heavily using volume spread analysis, and it's sort of a lost art. But
hmm
in my opinion, it's probably one of the, I tell my students and the people that I mentor, I tell them that volume is king,
Yes, it
and
is.
volume will. I look at volume first, and then I look at fibs and everything else after, support and resistance after that. But I look at a confirmation of volume first. So that's just if you want to look at, because a lot of people ask me, well, how did you learn to trade volumes for analysis? Like, well, you can, there's an ebook called Master the Markets by Tom Williams. You can read that. It is quite heavy, so it does take a few times to go through it. Um, but people can learn this stuff, and this type of trading was actually, like, if you look at the history of, and you can just Google Wyckoff, he came up with this way of analyzing the markets because it was basically used to be able to give people the edge against market manipulators, big whales and players, stop hunts, things like that. And people were getting killed through these things, and that's where this is where this trading style came from. And that's why I find it works very well in crypto, especially in crypto because in Forex we don't really have true volume, right? You only have the number of ticks, right? Whereas in crypto, you actually, whether or not it's the if it's the exact real volume, we're actually not going by ticks. We're going by contracts traded, and that's why volume spread analysis was meant
It's even
mostly for
better for
stocks,
this. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It was mostly meant for stocks, but it did work somewhat in forex. It wasn't as success. It wasn't just as accurate, but it was really accurate in stocks, and it's very accurate in crypto as well.
So tell me a little bit about your journey. You started with Forex. Um, what intrigued you to move over to trading crypto? Because I had the same journey. Same journey.
Oh, okay, yeah, cool. I mean, a lot of people have had that journey. This is what Cliff I was talking about. How you're getting the people. It's before it started with like the woo and like the weird people getting the crypto, and then now
Mm-hmm.
you have like the investors and the traders now moving to crypto. And that was like the move last year, where I guess you, me, and a whole bunch of other traders from the investing world now moved into crypto. The reason why I got involved was one is I saw a bigger picture, which um, Cliff High talks about, right? This whole transition where, this is like investing in, stock market, 2.0, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Forex, it's very, like, it's really hard to determine a bias in Forex. Whereas in crypto, the bias was really easy for me. It was long.
Yeah.
So just by
Yeah.
eliminating the
You
idea
have
of
so
going of
you have
going
so
short.
many more variables in FX, whether it be monetary policy, fiscal policy, with each government. Then you've got wars between each country and the currencies and how they play those games, and then you got to play against the actual brokers, right? If you're not trading straight through. I think
Exactly.
nowadays most people are most people trading straight through now. EC was it ECN ECN?
I know there are some people that did prefer to do that. The guys that I was trading with and in contact with, they were all about ECN, right? Especially the high level traders, but the
Yeah,
small level traders, they were trading on like, liquidity provider pools like Oanda and things like that, right? They're not real
right,
markets, right?
right.
Your trade's not even going on the market, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're betting against your trades and stuff. So it was a lot of and maybe you can give some advice to individuals because you said you've been trading for 15 years. I've been trading for maybe about 11,
Nice.
and
No.
so I'm sure you've seen the influx in this space. How many people are traders overnight now since 2017 because they thought they were good traders because they bought and it was one of the biggest bull runs I've ever seen in any financial or asset class, I should say.
Yeah.
So, maybe kind of give people some understanding of what it takes to be a successful trader because it's not
Well,
easy and it takes many, many years, in my opinion.
absolutely. And I don't know a single person that hasn't blown an account before they were successful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, it's kind of like if you haven't done that, then you really have no right to be successful, really, because
Yeah.
every
You got to
every
pay your
trader I know
dues,
has.
right, in this game.
Yeah,
That's how you pay your dues.
yeah, exactly, and that's where you learn to be a disciplined trader. I really okay. So as far as advice, I would say that first and foremost, money management is the most important, even over
Absolutely.
method and everything. If you have money
Yep.
management, especially in crypto, really, really hard to lose. And that's not financial advice, but um, it is that is my opinion, right? If you manage your money and you're not invested too heavily in one coin or one trade or whatever you want to do it, right? I always teach my students like really no more between 2 to 5% max per trade, right? And if you're scalping with leverage, 1 to 2% max. Um, Money management is the absolute most important thing, and even especially when you're new and you're gonna make mistakes, money management will protect you. You don't have that money management, you're guaranteed to fail, I would say.
Because
And
at the
like
end of the
lucky,
day, these things are our technical analysis is not 100%. There is always that unknown factor, right? So you want to protect yourself against
Yes, absolutely right. So
some
money management
fundamental
is a
play.
whole separate thing, right?
Yeah.
But the reason, okay, so how I got involved, okay, because I was never really, I stopped teaching forex, and I wasn't wanting to really teach people in the crypto. I was just wanting to just do it just on the side. But it seemed like there was people who were asking me, because I was posting numbers in the room, and they were so, how did you get to that? How'd you get the top? Why are you entering this? And people asked me to teach them. So I got into teaching also because I also realized something that was happening in this new crypto world that was coming out, which I was seeing. If it's one thing I've found in forex, there's a lot of people who are teaching technical analysis, but they really don't. They just learned it
They
off
don't
YouTube or
they don't
something, right?
know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right. And you know, it's I found it, like moving average trading, like it's just not my style. Okay, it's just not my style. But people were moving ideas and methods that have been around for ever since I started, and they brought them over into crypto. Like it was some brand new thing, and this is like
Mm-hmm.
old stuff, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
it's this brand new system, and I said no, this is all. So what was happening? What I was seeing all the old methods and indicators um, being regurgitated as brand new shiny things in forex. Sorry, in crypto. That's been around in forex and stocks forever. But because crypto's kind of forced every regular day person to learn to become a trader.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
was seeing, and people saying, they were so amazed with these indicators. I'm like, these indicators are nothing. Back in
Nope.
the day, we used to trade on something called MetaTrader 4.
Yes.
You would have,
Yes.
like, I'm sure you know
MT4.
about that, right? You'd have
Absolutely.
custom indicators, you'd have like insane indicators,
All of
which
them, and they still at
exactly
the end
right.
of the day, like I think as a trader, as you become more experienced, at least I've found this to be true. I don't use
Yeah.
any indicators. I use volume. I'll use support, resistance, trend lines, and draw, and I'll look at some candle patterns as well,
Yep.
um, and Fibonacci retracements. That's
It's
that's
funny you say
that's
that.
it.
Most traders that I know that have traded over 10 years, they result to those things.
Yes, yes, it has. You have to, because you use all of these things, and you end up not making. You end up with the same issues. You second guess. You have too many indicators on your screen, so now you don't know
Exactly.
which way to go.
Yeah, you are more focused
Analysis
on
through
trading the
paralysis.
indicators, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
are more focused on trading the indicators than trading the actual chart and price, right?
right, right.
So,
So when I saw, I wanted to say that because when I saw some of your images in the webbot room, I could
yeah,
tell. I didn't even know three clips that you were how long you've been trading, but I knew you were a more mature and more experienced trader just from looking at the screenshots that you placed on there. I could tell like this guy is definitely. So let's go ahead and get into what the conversation, excuse me, today is about. I've got your screen up here.
yeah, okay.
And so tell us about and this is the theme today, guys, why 2018 is not like 2014.
Yeah.
So go ahead and kick it off and kind of
So,
explain.
um, yes, there is a whole video. Like, it's been kind of bothering me this last few weeks. I haven't made a single YouTube trading video. Okay,
I know, I
I've
saw
been teaching
that.
on the side, but I
Yeah, I
said, you know
saw
what?
that.
And I saw everybody was really 50-50 about Bitcoin. And I said, you know what? I need to show people what I'm seeing in the charts. What I have, and I did post a few days ago. I blasted pretty much every single Telegram site. I said, post me the best source that you can find to say why we're going down to 5,000, or why we're going to go up. Have we bottomed or not? And after all that, I found that pretty much everybody was 50-50. So after that, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to put my view on it, my experience, and because people are not pointing this out. So let's go into the Bitcoin chart. I like to use. I usually like to use Coinbase.
Okay.
Okay. The chart that I did prepare for this, because we got to go all the way back to
Yeah, you
2014,
got to use Bitfinex
right?
or Bitstamp.
Bitfinex or
Some
Bitstamp.
more data. Yeah.
I think I use Bitfinex here. What I do, and what I teach my students is that I use the monthly to give me a forecast for the month or for the next month, because volume spread analysis is a lot you find about what the next candle is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
right? If it is an environment that's going to be ripe for buyers, or it's going to be ripe for sellers. Okay, so when I was looking and analyzing 2014, after we topped off here and we started moving down, I can see that I know we are on the monthly charts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I want to take a look at what is the interest level as price is falling. Is it increasing or is it decreasing?
Mm-hmm.
I can see here it was kind of undecided. You can see as price was trying to fall here for 2 months, and we have descending volume, right? This tells me that, okay, the sellers are not very strong, and it's creating, especially when I saw this, I wasn't around back then, right? But I can only say what I'm seeing back here.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see that we have a very narrow close here. Volume's not particularly high, but I can see that price is not making new lows here. And the fact, I'm not surprised that the price didn't move much here, because even though we had a down month, it shows me that there was not much interest in lower prices. And so I would be telling my students, even at this point here, I would say keep an eye for the next month, because we could be seeing some upside as the market starting to show environments where there could be some buyers coming in. And you can see it kind of pop up, but kind of went down. That's kind of at the point we've been at right now. After we see this, it's everybody knows it's almost a straight doji, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people be looking for long. So the next month I would be looking for a long position, right? And we did have some upside here, but you can see that the volume is not very high, like compared to and I usually like the last 5 bars or so, and I compare that.
Mm-hmm.
And I take a look and I see, look, there's not much interest in price going up. And as I see price starting to fall down, we can see that there's an interest in that fall, right?
So that's called a divergence, right? So you have increase in volume and a decrease in price. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that the price is falling, but this is like, the way that I look at volume spread analysis, I look at it like is there gas or power behind this move, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that there is an increase in power in this move. So I know that when I'm looking at support and resistances to break, you'll find that any support or major resistance will always need some volume to break it.
Yeah.
It needs to break past it, right?
Yeah.
So when I see price approaching this area, so let's say we were analyzing back here and people were asking, well, is it going to break this bottom? I would say, well, there's a good chance at this point, because you can see prices falling and it's increasing in power. There's power behind this move. There is selling volume. This is called ascending selling volume, right? It did break it. And you can see that, where is it? I know it's actually different on this chart, I think, right? Actually, no, it actually didn't break it, did it? I thought I was looking at the, let me just look at it broke. I know that the spikes were significantly different here. Okay, there we go. There we go. Yeah, okay, because the spike here at the Bitstamp is different than Bitfinex, right? So actually, let's just use Bitstamp here, because we didn't spike all the way down here for that month, right? It actually, I don't know why there's such a huge difference, but anyways,
because back then the market, like, there were only a couple of real major data feeds that we could get our prices from, and so
okay.
there were inconsistencies there.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so actually this chart's good. So I can see as price is moving down, heading to support, people would be wondering, is this going to break? I would say, yeah, there's a good chance, because the volume's showing that there's strength behind this move, and sure enough, see, it broke through, right? You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Still, like, there's still, even some buyers would try to come in here. They were overtaking. Yeah, I can see, there's no sign of strength of drying up selling. The only sign we see is here. this is the first sign we see. We see 3 months, right? You see it's going to kind of go sideways, right? But it's nevertheless, it's moving down. They close red because that's what I'm looking for, the close of the candle. If price went down or up, clearly the price went down here, and I see there is lack of interest. This is descending selling volume for 3 months in a row. So at this point, I would be telling people, I said, you know what, be careful. Next month, it's ripe. The market is ripe for buyers, and sure enough, it started to come in. And you compare this volume to these previous ones, you can see that it's pretty decent. Actually, this one overlaps this one, and this one passed even the last three. So I can see the buyers are starting to gain some strength here. And then one last dip, and then you can see as we start moving up here, this is a healthy move when you start seeing price moving up on increasing volume, right? And you can see every time we dipped, you can see the low volume right there. Yeah. So this is what I use as a forecast.
At this point, as you see the volume start to tinker off there, and we're heading higher, I would assume at some point we're losing steam.
Yes. Okay. So you can see that. Are you talking about the green bars or the red bars?
So just looking at volume going lower.
Okay. So
in a descending way, and we're heading higher.
I've seen people look at it how as the market's heading up and they see the volume going down and they say, okay, no, it's drying up. But you can see it didn't, right? So that's why I look at each candle individually. So the idea about volume spread analysis is to look at the spread of the candle and the volume and to say, okay, were there more buyers or sellers in this day, right?
No, more sellers, of course.
Yeah. Well, we can see that there were sellers in here, but there wasn't much. And the people that were selling in here, right, they were transferring over to someone else because everyone who's selling was someone buying, right? So when I look at a down bar like this, but I see it's low volume, I see this as a compared to the previous ones, right? I can see that this is a lack of power in selling. So I would say to people, I said, no, I can see that the sellers are weak. Okay, there's some selling coming in, but the sellers are weak. Just like what back here, I would say the sellers are weak. So the market, and you can see this month, I would tell people, look, the sellers are weak here, right? And then from here, that's where I would zoom in and I would try to pick a position on the the daily or the 1 hour, right? But this is just a forecast on the overall strength of the market that I cannot ignore. You'll find when it comes to volume, the higher time frame signal you have, the stronger the moves. Like you were saying about swing trading, right? And this is why I take into account the monthly chart, which a lot of people don't look at, and especially right now since it's so choppy. Right now, let's bring it back to how it's different over here. I can see. Because I was telling people in July, okay, I was telling my students in July, actually, you know what, let's go back to the month here. People were calling for 5,000 and all here, right? And I said, guys, we don't have the volume for that. I don't see that happening. In fact, I see descending selling volume. Sellers are weakening. And next month, watch out for a rally. And I think I said it would go at least... See, one thing I also look at is statistics. I look at, I'm sure you've heard of it, the average range, right? It's like the range. So what I found back then, and I was telling my students that the average range for the monthly candles, it's about roughly, it was like $2,013 for Bitcoin. And it's slowed down. I think the last one was 1,300 and this one was like 700 or something like that. So the range is decreasing. But what I did calculate, because I used my old indicator from MT4, I had a average true range indicator that calculated, I think it's like 24 bars, and that's what it said was the average true range. So I'm looking for at least a $2,000 move in this month.
Is it called? It's ATR.
That's the one,
indicator?
ATR. Man.
Yeah, I remember
ATR. Yeah. So that created this month, and it actually moved over $2,000. And that's why I was telling my students, get ready for this is a condition.
So
Okay, I did say,
here's the thing, 3CLIPZ. Like, I
yeah.
understand that, but remember, I think we were talking about in the chat room, like, is it just causation and correlation, that whole thing? Because that bar, let me go back to your screen.
Yeah,
That one green bar was our anticipation for a ETF, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So what the volume tells me is if the market is ripe for buyers or sellers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I was telling people, I said, look, I don't know if buyers are going to step in this month. It's just
Okay.
like now, I don't know if buyers are going to step in this month. But I
Mm-hmm.
tell people, I said, the volume is telling me the market is ripe to rise. But what I did tell people, I said, we're not going to break the support. I don't see the volume in it. If we were falling down on increasing volume, I would say, okay, like back then in 2014, there's a good chance it would break. But it created an environment for a catalyst to be able to rise the market. The
So
volume just tells me the status of the buyers and the sellers, right?
go back to 2014, because I was in Bitcoin then, and I
Yeah.
remember the Mount Gox situation, and I just want to see. So we've got the Mount Gox, and how long did we stay in a kind of low place? How many
This one
months
here,
was
like when
that?
we bottomed out here,
Yeah.
I think I have it over here. This area here is 212 days from this bottom to this bottom here.
Okay. Okay. See,
Yep.
my thing is, I don't. There are a couple things. I think we're very close to a bottom. The problem I'm having though, Clips, is that we haven't had that capitulation moment to really truly wash out all the sellers, in my opinion.
Yep.
So we may see a pop, like a rise up from here. But so let me ask you this: do you see
Yeah.
new highs coming out of this move, or what are your thoughts about the end
Right
of the
now, where the
year?
market is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think right now that because, and this actually aligns with because I use WebBot to correlate with my charting, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, the 4 days in July, right? I think it was like the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, right? So I did tell people that this area is of interest to me, right? Um, and the report, it said that this was a pivot, right? That's how it described it. And
Mm-hmm.
in the last Cliff High video, he was saying that 6,400 seemed to be the floor that people said I'm not willing to sell anymore. I thought that's kind of funny because that's the area we've been actually pivoting up and down, whether we've been holding that. So it seems that the WebBot data is also confirming what I'm seeing in the charts, where people are just not willing to sell at this point, even though we've had massive Bitcoin dumps. But we've also had I told my friend, I said, you know what? I really think what's happening is there are powers propping up the market and powers pushing down the market, and that's why I said it's very different this year than last year. We have just so many invisible hands, or I wouldn't say invisible hands, but so many pushes and nudges in Bitcoin that we didn't have back then. And I think that these pushes and nudges have resulted in this narrowing here, just trying to stabilize and hold Bitcoin, whether it's for the ETF, but because of what I'm seeing in the volume, I don't see. So if volume starts coming and starts pushing us down, it's definitely not showing to me on the monthly chart. I mean, nothing stops somebody from coming in here and just dumping another 100,000 Bitcoin and just seeing if that's
But remember,
nothing
like,
stops.
my whole philosophy is we will see it on the smaller time frames before we see it on the monthly. So you get what I'm saying? So we would see the indications of that, and shout out to my guy, Crypto Joe,
Yeah,
from he's Litecoin cat. He's on he follows me on Twitter, but he shows that, and I think he actually called in to the last off the chain, but he showed me a chart where the technical breakdown is there on the, I think, hourly and weekly, but but we just don't have it on the monthly yet. So do you
Mm.
think that that could possibly just be something that's going to show up in the next month or so to confirm the bearish move on the monthly chart?
I just think at this point right now, there needs to be some catalyst to be able to move this market in one direction. But I don't see what I'm seeing when prices are falling is that there is not much interest in selling those rallies. People are not dumping those rallies. Let me ask you: when Bitcoin is dumping below, 6,300, do you feel like selling your Bitcoin? And that's what I think Cliff was saying. People are not willing to sell their Bitcoin. And like, okay, for example, when I'm looking at volume and I'm looking on the daily now, so when I saw this drop here, right? You can see the next candle. If there was so much sellers, this would have continued. So for volume spread analysis, this would be effort to fall with high volume. Okay, effort to fall, and it failed. So when I saw this, I actually took a position at 6,200. Right here, I took a position long, and I've been holding that because I anticipate for us to go higher prices. And I was telling people, because we've been falling on low volume, I'm expecting a spike, and we did get the spike. So I actually put the trade on break even. I'm expecting another, maybe that 10% spike that Cliff keeps talking about. We'll see if we get it. But
No, we got it. That was it.
oh, you think this was it? Because he
Yeah.
said in this video he was gonna do it. There was another one that was gonna come, didn't he?
I don't recall that. I know that I think that was he said it before this 10% spike happened, and that's when it happened shortly after.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was yeah, okay. I'll have to double check that one, but it was actually funny. He actually did call that, and it did happen. But
Hmm.
um, so but because you know, when I see
So
price falling
let,
in
let
this
me
area,
let me ask
yep,
you this about the this price behavior, this price action. I find it very very curious to me that we have these. They call them Bart Simpson moves, where
yeah,
you'll see it's basically a wash. It's just a wash trade.
yeah, on like the 1 hour 15 minutes,
One
right?
hour, right?
Yeah.
So, I've never experienced that in FX. What are your thoughts about that? Those types of
You
price
actually
moves.
have you actually have. These are where you'll find stop hunts. So you'll find that stop hunts are where they'll use a large amount of order to be able to move the books really quickly, just like what they've been
Yeah,
doing with
that but
high frequency
they don't
swaps.
shape out like they do here in crypto with this
Yeah,
drop, and then it'll be a lead, it'll be a smooth area for a couple, 12 hours or a day, and then we'll just go right back up the opposite way.
yeah. So this is also for me. Volume spread analysis is really good with this. Just for example, here you have a high volume effort to rise, and it failed. There is nobody willing to buy Bitcoin at this point. So at this point, I would just tell people, look, that's not a real pump, and sure enough, it goes down. And look, another effort to fall, right? High volume, people are not willing to sell. So this is what we've been doing in this area. Same area here, back here, you can see that there was a effort to rise over here, that failed. So if I saw price going up and the next candle closed green, that would tell me that maybe there is showing that there are people willing to buy that rally. But what I'm seeing in the spikes here, that people are not willing to buy the rally, they're not willing to sell the dips, and this is why we've been kind of going sideways in this. Um,
But see that this area right here, move over to the left a little bit.
okay, yeah,
You'll see this is the one I'm talking about here. I've never experienced this in FX where you have this very almost binary type of event there.
yeah,
It's very interesting, and I definitely think there is some battles going on the exchanges in the spot market for sure. So let me know exactly, Clips, where do you think we will end? And of course, that no one has a crystal ball,
yeah.
no psychics here, but where do you feel like, from technically speaking, we will end the year?
I honestly feel that where we're pretty much near the end of the month now. Okay, we are now this pattern here, these 3 months of falling, is reminds me of back in 2014. Okay, I think we're actually somewhere here, and something like this will be caused by probably the upcoming hype for the ETF and backed as well. I think that's gonna be a catalyst to be able to start to move this market. Then I think we will see a quick crash from people, wanting to take profits quickly because people are still in shock for this year, right?
Hmm.
I think we're pretty much going to repeat something like this, and then uh,
After the new year, see a run. See, the
yeah,
thing is,
I mean, it actually aligns kind of perfect too, right? Because we're in what, November, so November, December, and then maybe January a bit of a sell off, and then right back up, something similar to this, a nice kind of steady climb before
hmm
we go parabolic again.
hmm
Um, but
so
this is what,
I'm
yeah, so this is
thinking
what
that.
I'm seeing.
Okay, all right. So I'm thinking that the thing why I'm a little concerned about where we are currently is because, as you've stated, there are no more sellers. But I'm fearful of an event that will prompt more selling, and that could be something like, I don't think the ETFs are going to be passed this year. So I think we still have some price baked in there for an ETF. I think we do. I think that's not really truly reflected as far as a Bitcoin without an ETF being present. So
That's possible, right?
Yeah.
That's possible. I'm just looking at right now, currently, how the market sentiment is with volume. This is what, you know, um, even if I just close my eyes, okay, if we didn't know what the news was and I just went with volume, this this is what would tell me, okay, so for example, if we do start rising a little bit next month, and I see that there's no interest in that, that would be a sign that, okay, maybe we're going for a leg down again.
I
Um,
got you.
but this, when I see 3 months of falling on descending volume, this tells me that this
Yeah,
is an environment
they're
that
losing steam. Yeah, the Bears are
exactly.
losing steam.
And
Absolutely.
then when the bulls do come back, they're not going to have much of a fight because the sellers are this is telling me the sellers are weak. So I was telling people back here, right, when we had this month going up, I said, okay, I did anticipate for us to continue. I was hoping for this to continue, but then that whole Silk Road Mount Gox whale dumped 100,000 Bitcoin in with
Mm-hmm.
the yeah, and all that nonsense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if this continued to climb, but we had descending volume, so we were rising on descending volume,
Yeah.
I would have gotten out of the market completely at that point. So at the next point here, if I see the market coming up, I see it rising on low volume, that's a red flag for me. If I see us rising on ascending volume, like you go back here, then I would say, okay, like the market looks like it's actually now it's actually looking like it's going to turn. This scenario here was a indicator, regardless of news or whatever. And back when I was trading forex, I was purely technical.
Yeah.
Fibs,
And you can be.
fibs,
Yeah.
trend
That's.
lines. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So with this here, this is a sign I'd be looking at for the market to turn. When I see the market turning, I want to see, is there power behind that turn? What is volumes VSA telling me? And then that is pretty much where I think we're at, is over here. And I think that, look, I'm not expecting history to repeat itself, but I'm going to give it the first month when I do see buyer step in, I want to see what it looks like. And
Mm-hmm.
the next month follow through, because we don't want to get into a, no, this is a good example here, right? You can see buyers step in, but you can see volume slightly decreased. And it could barely even close to a new high.
Mm-hmm.
Barely. This is a sucker's rally. Just like this would be, a sucker sell off.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I see it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one thing that the
Yeah,
volume.
I'm really high. I'm really big on price action, and I do see, if you as you've stated, the ATR, if you want to call it that, that price
Yes.
action is it's just dwindling to a point where it has that it's almost like pent up energy,
Yes.
and it has to explode at some point. And so I do believe we will see a move. But the thing is, I hope we see a move up. But I think by December, we will, at wherever we are, we will see another sell off because I feel that individuals will be selling to lock in their losses for future tax purposes. So,
And that would be a complete repeat of the pattern that we were just saying we were showing back then, where we had 2 months. So we had November up, December up, and January down, and then right back up after that, right? Back here, when we looked at the monthly, that's exactly.
Well, the sale would have to happen before January. It would have to happen in December this go around. But it doesn't repeat. It rhymes. So
right.
History doesn't repeat.
This is November, right? This would be November. We would finish December up, and then you're throughout from January 1st, you get that sell off. It would actually align with what you're saying, right? We could get that. I'll zoom in as well, and I'll see what the volume looks like in this time. To see if I see any major selling weakness or anything that it looks like the market could take a drop in January. Now a lot of people will, especially after this year, right? People are scared to hold on for January, I'm sure. If the market does go up, right? People will be quick to take profits. People are more quicker to take profits than they are to take stop losses, right?
Yeah, especially in this bear market. So they're gonna sell the rallies.
And there's one thing too. There's one pattern that I did notice that a lot of people have been talking about, but I just thought we talk about building pressure, right? This area here, that when Cliff was saying we're moving into the next phase, everybody knows we're making lower highs and higher lows, right? This pattern here is actually very similar to one we had on a lower time frame, and we had a big explosion off that one. So let me see. And I was telling people about this one before it happened. Let's see.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it in your video.
Yeah, that's right. It's this one right here. Look, I tried to make the video short, right? I didn't want to go through everything, but that's how he's making lower highs and lower lows. This area here, right?
Was that the 1,000-point day?
Exactly, yeah.
I predicted that we would see that. I did a video and said we were probably going to see something like 1,000 points, and it surely did.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny that the pattern that we're in is very similar to this, right? But what even if the volume is dry, Bitcoin's gonna have to move somewhere. Okay, so on the next month, okay, and this is what I look at, for net change, right? I already have it here, so I think I narrowed it down where the month range, I think it was like $600 or something. Let's just say 600. So let's say if we close Bitcoin at 6,400, the expected range for the next month is going to be, if it does go all the way down here, we could hit a high of 67. If we don't even go down and we don't even drop from there, the next month we could easily go to 7,000. Just minimum.
Okay,
right?
so that's doable. I can see that. I can definitely see that. Now the thing is, at 7,300, we have another very strong resistance area there at 72, 7,300, 71, somewhere around there.
Yes.
So I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that for sure. So what are your thoughts about, you're a trader, and I have this debate with other people who are traders or into, just financial markets and stuff.
Yes.
Is Bitcoin, cryptos a zero-sum game? Trading.
Zero-sum game. I actually have to think about that one before I give the answer.
Okay, yeah, it's a difficult one that it's been up for debate, and I've had long conversations with people about. But Cool, man. I appreciate you coming on. Definitely sharing your thoughts on where the market is and where it's going. And of course, I hope it goes up. I definitely do.
Oh, we all
I'm
do, right?
just, yeah, of course. I'm just concerned with this low volume. Any negative news, like an ETF not being passed, which I don't see the SEC doing just based off their criteria, the list of reasons they've denied so far. I feel like we will get another sell off before we make that final move up. But we will see. Only time will tell. And I appreciate you coming on, 3Clips.
Yeah. Thanks, CB. Thanks for the time.
All right.
Bye for
Take
now.
care.